You're live.
Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and welcome to my shop. And we are the Knights of the White Oak. That's the Knights that say, ash that oak, hickory paduke. Okay, that didn't come out quite the way it was in my head, but okay. So welcome back to the shenanigans that is Wood by Wright. We do this every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. So we hang out and usually pick a topic and talk about it. Once a month we do a simple Q&A, but we're going to have some fun tonight talking about where to find hand tools, because this is one of the questions that is always coming up. I'm a new woodworker. I'm having a really hard time finding hand tools. Where do I find them? So I'm going to be going over all the sources where I bought hand tools, as well as all the sources I know of and other people have been telling about. So updates in the shop. There really isn't a whole lot going on other than a few projects. Sarah's bench video came out Saturday.
Turn it. Oh, I thought we were talking about my bench.
Oh, do you want to talk about your bench?
I thought that was the cue.
Well, I mean, everyone can watch the video and see exactly where we're at on the bench. So, yeah, we're not on the bench right now.
You're going to get benched.
That's, bench pressing, yeah.
Fine. They're here to see me anyways.
That's
They're
a
not
bench
here to see
depressing.
you.
Yeah, I put all of the questions so far over on
I
the
know.
sheet, so
I wanted to talk about my bench, but no.
Sorry.
There's only a question about bench. No. Okay.
So we're going to actually look at some of the tools. I'm going to talk through some of the places where I've gotten them, and most of these, I would say probably around 60%-ish, I have purchased at the MWTCA tool meets. Now, tool meets are usually put on by clubs of people who are dedicated to collecting hand tools. It's some users of hand tools, but most of the time they're about collecting. And so you have these old collectors that are trying to find the last piece or parts for their plane to make it collectible. But then there's other people like us that go in there like, I'm going to use that. And so we're kind of an odd breed to most of the tool collecting associations. But the MWTCA is the big national group. It's the Midwest Tool Collectors Association, but it really is a national group where they hold meets, and they have them set up for pretty much every state, and occasionally they'll have them in other countries as well. Normally they have meets going on pretty much every weekend somewhere, as well as two big national meets. So if you imagine for yourself an entire basketball court plus a little bit larger, covered in tables, and every table completely covered in hand tools or boxes of hand tools, or more boxes underneath the tables, and then all of them are for sale. That is what an MWTCA national meet is, and it is the best place to find hand tools, hands down, anywhere in the world. But unfortunately, since February, they haven't been happening. There's something about sticking 300 old guys in a gymnasium that stand around for a couple hours talking to each other that just doesn't sit well with most nurses and doctors. So those haven't been happening much recently. So we've been actually finding a couple different ways. So I want to actually go through kind of my experience where I found hand tools in the past. When I first got started, my first hand plane was a Union number 4, and I bought it at a garage sale. And for me, that was where I bought most of my first tools. I went around to estate sales and garage sales. Around here, estate sales are a great way to find them because Joe Schmo passed away. He's got a bunch of tools in his basement. The rest of the family doesn't want them, and they sell them. And I found a lot of my tools. Usually I'd have to go to 5 to 6 estate sales until I found a couple tools worth buying. And so I would spend a Saturday, and I would go out for 3 or 4 hours in the morning to estate sales that would have tools. There's several apps you can look up estate sales and garage sales and kind of see what's going on. That was a great one right off the bat. But that only takes you so far, and you're kind of limited to what you can find there. The next thing for me, the next bump up, was antique sales. And so you go to antique stores, and those are kind of hit or miss, but you start to find that this antique store has one booth over in the corner. And that's where I got most of my saws. Most of my saws I pick up for $3 to $5. If it's a really nice one, I might spend $10 on it. I don't spend much on saws, and I know that really surprises a lot of people. But if you look around for them, hand saws are all over the place. Just this weekend, we were at an antique store, and they had 4 or 5 of them that they had listed for $5 a piece, and they were good saws. We went to another one where they were listed at $10 and $20, which was crazy expensive for me, but I know a lot of other people would be like $10 and $20 for a good saw. I'd do that. But antique saws, that's where I got most of my panel saws and hand saws. Now back saws, yeah, those, there really isn't a good place to buy them other than Midwest Tool Collectors or online. We'll be getting to some of the online stores in a little while. Those are very hard to find. Chisels, I tend to buy those new because antique chisels cost just as much as new chisels. So you generally buy those new. Files, I tend to find most of my files at estate sales and things like that where you have a bucket of files and it's $20 for the bucket, and I dig through it and 3 or 4 I'll keep and the rest of them get recycled or turned into something else. But after several buckets of files, I now have all the files I could ever want. Spoke shaves, most of those are MWTCA. I did have one. I tried something different, and I put an ad in Craigslist, which would now, I'd probably put it in Facebook Marketplace. And I put an ad saying, I buy hand tools, old hand tools, rusty hand tools. They're your father's old hand tools you're trying to get rid of, I buy them. Come let me take a look and I'll give you an offer. And I bought several tools for that. My 4.5, my first spoke shave, came through an ad like that. A guy called me up and says, yeah, I'm too old to do woodworking. I've got some hand tools. And I bought 5 or 6 tools off him at a rather good price. He was happy to see that someone was actually going to use them. I was happy to buy them because I need them. And that was a great way to actually run an ad and have people tell you, yeah, I've got tools for sale. Let's see. Molding planes. I have never on purpose purchased a molding plane. Those just tend to accrue. Every time you buy a box lot with one other plane, there's like 3 molding planes in it, and they tend to multiply. Molding planes are something that I've never actually looked for, but I occasionally get them as boxes come here and there. With the exception of my spill planes, I haven't actually purchased a molding plane because I need that molding plane. My Stanley 55 was actually from a viewer on the channel, and he had a Stanley 55 and he needed a box for his Stanley 55, and so I traded him work for the tool, and that was a fantastic thing because those are crazy expensive. They aren't hard to find if you know where to look, but you're going to have to shell out for a Stanley 55. 45s, that one I got off of Craigslist. That one was listed, it was a 45 one cutter for about $45. And that's a pretty going price for a stripped down plane that's basically ready to go, needs some cleanup, and comes with one cutter. Squares, I tend to find those. Actually, most of my squares I got at a retool store. And there's actually a store chain called Retool. But in a lot of cities, they have it's kind of like a resale store where you see clothes where your wife likes to go, but they only sell tools, which is a fantastic thing, except for most of the time they're selling power tools, and they have like one little corner in the back where they have all these hand tools. And the great thing about those stores is they have no idea what to do with the hand tools because they're used to selling all the power tools. And so most of the time the hand tools are dirt cheap. There's a retail store in town. I got my number 3 from them. It is a Type 6 number 3, which is a pretty decent one. I bought it for $20. They had no idea what they had, and I got that. So I was very happy for that one. Let's see, what have we got here? Frame saws. My big one, it was a kit. This one I got at MWTCA. This one I got at a garage sale. My bow saws, my 2 big buck saws, those I actually got on Craigslist. Someone was listing them. Clamps. 3 of these I picked up at a garage sale. And these were the first things I found, and I was blown away because I started that day going garage sale to garage sale, and I thought, wow, it would be really cool if I could find a wooden clamp. I had no idea what wooden clamps were, and this is when I was first beginning, before I even built my first bench. And a guy had 3 of those at there, and he had $15 a piece on them, and I talked him down to $30 total for all 3 of them. And yeah, I was very happy with that. Most of my clamps I actually got in one big lot. A guy on Craigslist had, I think he had 17 clamps, but most of them were missing pieces or half of one clamp. And he was listing the whole thing for $400. And so I went and looked at them and realized that there were all these pieces and I could probably get about 6 or 7 clamps out of them. And I told him, I'd give you $70 for them. And he looked at me and laughed because he had $400 on it. Well, about a month later, I saw it was still listed and I posted and said, hey, you have any luck with it? And he says, no, you're still offering $70? And I said, yes. So I went and bought them. And that's where I got most of those clamps. A lot of my my wooden hand screw clamps I've gotten in box lots with other things. But usually I'm just kind of keeping my eyes open. I go on Facebook Messenger, I go on Craigslist. I have search terms on there because both of them you can set up for...
Marketplace.
What did I say?
Messenger.
Marketplace, not Messenger. Both of them you can set up search terms, and so I have a hand plane, I have hand saw, I have hand tools, I have grandpa's tools, I have passed away tools, and those are actually search terms where I find some of my best ones is we're selling off grandpa's tools if anyone wants to come make an offer. I've had a couple of those where I've purchased things from them. A lot of my specialty tools are word of mouth. And that's one of the things where groups and communities come together is, hey guys, I'm looking for a foot-powered lathe. Anyone have any suggestions? And lo and behold, Joe Schmo has a contact in Ohio who has a contact 25 minutes away from me, and he's selling 2 foot-powered lathes. That wouldn't happen without community. And so those are where I've gotten most of my tools. But I actually, there are so many different sources and so many different places that I wanted to put them all together. And so I have a website called handtoolfinder.com. It's actually pinned in the chat right now, and it is down in the description below for those of you who are not watching this live. And on there, I've put together everything I know of anywhere in the world. And I have an entire map of the world that is pinned with all of the locations of antique stores that have been known to have tools to sell. Actual stores, there are several stores that are dedicated to antique hand tools, as well as tool meets and other known sources where you can buy tools. So it's as much as I know of around the world, and I have most continents with a couple pins. There are a few in Europe, though they're harder to find. They're almost impossible to find down in South America. But if you look at that map and you know of a source that's not on that map, please let me know. Send me a message, and I try and update it as much as possible. So if you have any source that's not on that page, let me know. Don't put it in the chat. Don't put it in the comments. Send me a message on social media or on my email, and I'll make sure to get it in there as well. Also on that page, underneath that, then I have a list of antique hand tool sellers online that I trust. When I first got into it, I thought, well, eBay, I'm going to go and buy eBay. And I bought one tool out of everything on this wall. There is one tool I got on eBay, and it is a tool that I've used exactly once and never again. It was a totally torn apart Stanley 192 that worked well for me once, and ever since then I have better tools to do it. But I needed that tool, and that's where eBay is very good, is if you need one thing specific, you can go on eBay and you can search for it, and it's probably on there. Particularly parts for tools, you're going to find that specific part if you know what to search for. But if you go on eBay, you're going to spend for it. eBay standard is very expensive in comparison to most other places. You can find things there, but most of the time it's going to be expensive. Yes, you can find deals in here and there, but most of the time eBay is expensive. So that's why I have a whole list of online sellers. And anytime I'm looking for something specific now, rather than going to eBay, I go down that list of online sellers, and usually they're Joe Schmo in Arizona who has a garage full of tools, and he collects tools and sells tools. And I'll contact him and say, hey, I'm looking for a Stanley number such and such. I need that screw in the back that goes underneath the frog. And he'll be like, oh, yeah, I got a bucket of them. I'll send you one. And if you go down that list of online sellers, they will have all of the parts you need, all the tools you need. And you know that when you're talking to them, they know what they're dealing with. So if there's a problem with it, they're going to tell you about it. If there's something about the plane, they're knowledgeable and they're honest enough that they're going to help you with that. The one downside is they know what they have, and that can be the upside. You're going to get a fair price. You're not going to get an amazing price, but you're not going to get ripped off either. You're going to get a fair price when you go with one of them. And so it's good to actually create some relationships with them. And so if you're looking for something, you can call them up and you kind of help each other out. Any pertinent questions before I'm... All right, let me jump into the next thing down the page is, I wrote it out here so I remember, is tool collecting organizations. So there's the Midwest Tool Collectors Association, which is kind of the national thing, but it doesn't go completely out west. Occasionally we'll have events outside of the Midwest. It does go all the way to the East Coast, up and down the East Coast. It goes down to Georgia. There's one meet down in Texas. So it's most of the United States and occasionally one in Canada or another country. If you don't have a meet near you, then contact MWTCA. If there's someone, if you in your town, you have a place to hold it, contact MWTCA and they'll help you set up an event. And so you can actually have an event in your town, which is a really cool thing. Actually, that's how the one down in Texas started. Is a guy down there is like, hey, I've got a location for it. Contacted MWTCA, and they got the sellers down there and got an event started down there. Then you have the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of the second biggest group, which is the Pacific Northwest. They have meets, I think it's like every 4 or 5 months. And then they have a really big meet every 2 years, which was supposed to happen this year, but it got bumped off. So I might be able to make it up for that one. There's the Rocky Mountain Tool Collectors. There's PAST, which is California. There is the Western New York Antique Tool Collectors Association. And there's Canada, there's the Southwest, and most of these are smaller groups that might have one meet a year, but it's a group where you might be able to contact other local hand tool people, collectors in your area. So go down the list. I'm a member of like 5 different groups, just because I like to get the regular mailing events and things like that. The tool collecting groups, just to forewarn you, they tend to be an older crowd. And so that means most all of their conversation is still done by actual mail. You know, that big box outside your house that people put things in. Yeah, they actually communicate to people through that box. It's really weird. But it's really kind of fun when you get to know them. But it is a slightly different personality, a slightly different group than what you think of if you're technology driven. But getting into these groups is key. And then I have a list of hand tool auctions. These are regular auctions that are basically dedicated to hand tools. They're in-person auctions. They are great. I've only been to a couple of them, but they are a lot of fun. And then I have, down at the very bottom, buy-sell trade groups. And these are where the communication goes. Hey, I'm looking for this plane. I'll go onto one of these groups and I'll talk about them. Each group has different rules. You have, some of them are dedicated to saws, some of them are dedicated to planes. Don't talk about saws on the plane page. Don't talk about planes on the saw page. And whatever you say, don't use the word vinegar, and you're okay. But they're a lot of fun to get on, especially the big ones for me is the Facebook Unplugged Woodworkers group. That's kind of the biggest hand tool group on Facebook. Great community there. If you ever have a question, they will answer it. There is the Wood by Wright Hive Mind group, and that is the group for Wood by Wright. And that is, if anyone has any particular answers, we throw those on there. But there is a new one that just started this year that I am crazy excited about, and this is where I've been buying most of my tools recently because the groups aren't available. And that is the Can I Have It Tool Sales Auction group. And there is a link to that in the description down below, as well as in handtoolfinders.com. And this is a cool group because during the week, so from Monday until Friday afternoon, they have regular tool sales. Joe Schmo has an extra hand plane, puts it up and says, $20, who wants it? And if anyone wants it, they can make a sale, buy it, and have it shipped out. It is a great source. But then the really cool thing is on the weekend. From Friday at 4 p.m. until Sunday at 10 p.m., there is an auction. And people will list things on there, and I list at least one thing a week. I might start listing some more. And the auction is a fantastic way to find tools at a very respectable price and see some really cool things. And the auction is a ton of fun. So it is a group that you definitely have to be a part of if you're looking for tools. That is where I've been buying most of my tools recently. it's kind of taken the place of the WTCA meets because they can't happen right now. So yes, that is my hand tool finder website. Get to know it because I'm constantly updating it, and if anyone has any sources that aren't on there, let me know and I will add them to it. So there's my full spiel of where I find most tools. I know we have a ton of questions, so we were going to spend the rest of the time hitting as many questions as possible. And I'm guessing those are super chats.
Yeah, you don't breathe.
I'm sorry, I don't breathe. My wife is looking at me like I'm about to die, so this is okay. What do we got?
Gravy.
I'm getting excited because we're talking about buying tools.
I talk a lot and fast. I have found as a married woman, you just have to find the right topic and then you can't shush them up. All right. So Alan first contributed to the Sarah's Tool Fund.
Yes, we need to do that one. Looking forward to taking you to a tool meet sometime.
I'm trying to figure out what part of the wall is going to be mine.
Need a bigger shop.
You ready?
Yes.
For the joke? I was recently asked who my favorite vampire was. I said the Muppet from Sesame Street. They told me he doesn't count. I replied, I assure you he does. I found that one. I left my phone upstairs, which has a lot of my. Oh man, I've been having so much fun.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right, and then Nate Long.
Thank you, Nate.
No, that was Alan. Nate then super chatted and asked if you will be at the MWTCA meet in Southern Illinois on the 31st.
We will see. That meet is kind of tentative, and we're hearing. We'll see if it goes.
Yeah, we're in Illinois, so who knows?
I'm about 4 hours north of there, and that is well within my driving range. But we'll see. It is. I'll let you know the night before. If I can, I will. But it all depends on lots of other things going on. So I would love to. The last one I was at was in February.
Are you ready for another joke?
I'm ready for the joke. What is it?
Everyone has heard of the historical figure Karl Marx, but no one remembers his sister, Anya, who invented the starting pistol.
Yes, that's a good one. So thank you, Nate. What's
Anyways,
next?
I'm just going to start with the questions and go down as you pulled
Cool.
them out and I have found
We will
them.
get to as many questions as we can. If we don't get to yours, I'm sorry. But if you do want it answered, super chat, and you jump to the top of the list.
All right. See, did Nate or Alan have questions? I don't think so. What is the duck? Duck has...
The duck.
Are some of the oddest tools you have or rarely seen tools you have?
I don't actually collect tools, says the guy standing in front of the tool wall. Every tool here, with the exception of molding planes, is a tool that I have used in the last 6 months, with a few odd exceptions. So I think oddest tool is probably this Cooper's spoke shave, which is one of the exceptions to tools I haven't used in the last 6 months. It's one I actually haven't restored, but it is a fun, beastly thing. It's a huge, huge tool. This was given to me by a friend in Pennsylvania. And yeah, one of these days I want to sharpen it up and use it for something. But I mean, it's almost a draw knife. It's so big. This one was probably late 1800-ish. I have a few irons that are from early 1800, but I don't have a whole lot of really old tools. Most of mine are late 1800s and newer. So, yeah. What's next?
Hang on.
Or is that a super chat I saw?
You have 2 super chats, and
Cool.
I don't have my phone. I need my phone. Oh, maybe I can log into my Pinterest. Sorry, Pinterest is where I keep my mom jokes.
Confession time.
Yeah.
What's the one tool you most regret buying, either completely overpaid or was a total piece of junk? The Harbor Freight number 4. Boat anchor. I don't know. I don't know if I have any that are just like total pieces of junk. I do have to say, the Stanley Everlasting Chisels, originally I thought they were kind of like the bee's knees, absolutely cool chisels. And they are kind of cool, but I don't use it as much as I thought as I would. This knobby handle just isn't as comfortable as I like. I like the feel of it, but as a chisel, I just don't use it that much. I don't know if there's anything particular that I've been like, I wish I didn't get that. I can't think of anything particularly. Usually it's like big box tools. I have a set of auger bits that I originally bought there that are trash, and I don't like those. Anything I've overpaid, I don't think I've ever really overpaid. I'm a cheapskate. I try to find the cheapest deal possible. So yeah. So thanks, Kenny.
You ready for a mom joke?
I'm ready.
A priest, a minister, and a rabbit walk into a blood bank. The rabbit says, "I think I might be a typo." You have another super chat, too.
What do we got?
Tom.
Hey, Tom. Thanks, man.
Says, "Thank you, King James, Lady Sarah, and my fellow knights for your help developing my skills. May the BLO guide us to the Stanley #1. Let's see. Does he have a question?
Tom. Sir Tom of the White Oak. Thank you.
Tom does not have a question. Okay.
Yeah, one of these days I'll talk Sarah into buying a #1. Because it'll be for her. Hand size and all. It just doesn't work right. Once you hold a #1, you will want a #1.
There's a lot of things I want for that price. Let me tell you very much. All right. You ready for a mom joke?
I'm ready.
Did you know the Canary Islands, there's not one canary? And on the Virgin Islands, same thing, not one canary there either. Anyways, I've had fun this week.
I see.
Oh, and Alan's being naughty, asking what side part of the wall, and he's saying the baseboard.
Oh. What do we got?
Put a picture of a #1 on the wall, then randomly replace it one day. She'll never know. Oh, Brian, no.
She knows and sees all.
Could have just I'll get a #1. That's pretty much what he thinks, Tom. Let's see. Jodi Hyde-parker asked, "What type of wood are you going to use for your workbench legs? It looks great for." This is my question.
Yes. Let me turn around.
See, told you that we could talk about the bench.
Because it's all about the shortness.
Well, when you reach perfection at such an early stage. All right.
What you got?
So, we have legs that have poplar.
Kicking one right there.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's a scrap of one, yeah.
Yeah, but this. And then we have some. And then, so these are more for the stretchers though, right?
Yep.
We decided, yeah. And then the legs. And then it'll be about
31 inches.
31, we'll see. We'll see where Sarah decides.
So, poplar legs, oak stretchers, good time. So hopefully that'll be coming here soon. We're probably going to have another week or two until the next video. The Sarah's bench videos take a little longer to come out because she still has a full-time job. Someone's actually got to pay for this thing, so.
Yeah.
What's next?
All right, let's see. Alex, I have what is that last name? Afanasyev? I'm so sorry if I just butchered that. I got an old number 7 Stanley, type 11 or 12, but it has a weird looking blade. Wide 2 5/16 at the cutting edge and 2 9/16 in the midsection. Did somebody grind it to fit?
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like you had one that came out of a shoulder plane. Although that'd be too wide for shoulder plane. It sounds like someone modified it. But it's not uncommon in tools is that someone modified something for a specific use on one particular project, and then for the rest of its life, every other owner is looking at it thinking, I wonder what happened to that. It's actually pretty common. But it sounds like it was modified. What's next?
Let's see. Anthony Moraes asked, why must chisels and hand-planed blades be tuned up before their first use, but hand saws are ready to go out of the box? Isn't a new hand saw essentially a row of brand new chisels?
Well, a handsaw doesn't have any moving parts or functioning parts, and so it goes. A chisel should be good to go out of the box, and the only thing you should have to do to a chisel is sharpen it. However, there are a lot of machinists out there that are very, very, very picky about things, and they want to tune up a chisel. They want to flatten the back. They want to shape it just so. A chisel should be good to go out of the box. My Narex chisels, I didn't flatten them. I didn't sharpen them. I started using them. Straight to go. Didn't need anything, and that's the way it generally should be. Planes, on the other hand, have a lot of moving parts, and so you, depending upon who you get it from, you probably don't even need to sharpen it. The blade's probably relatively sharp, but during shipping, things shift, things move. They're going to have to be tuned up, just like you have to tune up a plane regularly. As to flattening the sole, don't flatten a new sole. It's flat. Just don't worry about it. If you're worrying about it being flat from the manufacturer, then you're a machinist, and you're overthinking things. So that's the standard. You see a lot of people who do a lot of things to new tools that really don't need to be done, but they feel like it's not absolutely perfect, and so therefore they need to work towards perfect. But perfect is not a location. Perfect is a direction, and so different people draw a line along that continuum of where they stop. And a lot of people really like to go a long way down that line, hoping they hit perfection someday. What's next?
Let's see. I think we answered Troy's question because he said, where do you buy your tools now? I think you clearly answered that one.
I buy them all over the place. Yeah, but the big one is the Can I Have It hand tool group on Facebook. I'm having a lot of fun in there. And I just actually got some things today. Today, okay, where do I buy it right now? Actually, just like an hour or so before the live, I bought 2 hand planes and a bunch of C-clamps. And it was $20 on Facebook. So I'm going to be cleaning them up. Usually, it was an old Craftsman and a no-name, and usually those are like $5-10 a piece. I'll clean them up and I'll give them away to new woodworkers who are looking to get into it. I have a whole pile of hand tools that I give away occasionally to people who are getting into it and who don't have a whole lot of money. And so that's one of the things I like to do is clean them up and give them away to people. And so that Facebook Marketplace is a place where I'm always keeping an eye out for hand tools. And that one popped up on my search list as hand planes, I think it was. So, yeah. What's next?
Jodi Hyde-parker asked, James, do you know if there are any of these types of organizations in Australia?
Yes, there is an Australia hand tool collecting group. It's on the page. Family tools, hand tools, in Ohio. At least I thought there was. I have to look into that because I thought there was one, but I'm not seeing it on here. But look on the map, because on the map on the website you'll see. I think I have like 3 or 4 pins in Australia. And I'd love to find more. So if anyone has any sources, let me know, and I'll get them on the map. What's next?
Let's see. Gerald Grosskreutz asked, James, for Christmas, get Sarah. Oh, he was just saying to get me a Vestral for the big bits so I don't have a problem. Love the remake of Ghosts.
Yeah, that's one of the things on my list now. Is I've never really had a need for a long throw bit because I'm fairly strong and don't have much issue with it. But now with Sarah, I might need to get one that has a longer arm on it so it's easier to turn.
All right, hang on.
I'm hanging.
Shush. cbryantbear asks, can you use Facebook Marketplace without an account?
Not that I know of. However, I know of a lot of people who don't use Facebook at all, and they just have a Facebook account, and they'll be like the Hive Mind, the Can I Have It group, and Facebook Marketplace, and that's all they do. And that is a great use of Facebook. skip all the other things. They don't even have any friends on there. Yes, you can set up a Facebook account just to have that without any friends and not see any of the posts and other things. What's next?
Let's see. Perez Hernandez asked, have you ever found a Type 1 Stanley Bailey when searching tools?
Have I ever found a Type 1 Stanley Bailey? Yes. Or I believe I saw a Type 1 once at a Midwest Tool Collectors meet. Midwest Tool Collectors meet, it's rare to go to a meet without seeing at least one number one. A Type 1 would be very, very rare. Actually, I don't remember if I've seen a Type 1 or not. I don't know. I've never looked into it that much. But I remember one time I was walking up to a table and he had 3 number ones sitting out on the table. And I thought, wow, how often do you see 3 number ones sitting out next to next? And he looked at me and said, you really want to see something? He reaches down and he pulls out a box, opens it up, and there are 12 number ones in the box. That's why I shop at the Midwest Tool Collectors Association meets. You want it? It's there, and it's probably underneath the table too. What's next?
Okay, hang on. There were a bunch of questions, so I'm hoping
Yeah, if we don't get to your question, either repost it or throw up a super chat, and we'll make sure to get it there.
Let's see. Troy Jacobson, enjoying Sarah's bench build and looking at James's bench series as well as I'm working on a new bench for my basement, wondering about end vises. How do you, James, like your vise arrangement?
I love it because this is what I use. This is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I've gotten to know. Usually, people end up using whatever bench setup they first used and learned on. And there really is no right, wrong, or best one. Everyone's got to like something different. I use this corner because the way my bench was set up. It's very rare for a right-handed person to use this corner. This is usually the left-handed setup. Usually the other corner over here is for a right-handed person. I rarely use my leg vises. It's just I'm not used to it as much. I like having the long surface of an end vise here, plus having the end vise set up to be the wagon vise, and I can put dogs in it. It's a Moxon vise because I have through boards on it. I really love this setup, and I really don't think there would be anything I would change, but that's because I'm comfortable with it. This is something I know. I might get a different vise, but I really haven't found too much that's like, oh, yes. They're all a very similar vise with 2 screws that are connected, that if I picked something, it would be along that same line of what I have here. So, yeah, I like what I have. And if I do it again, I'd probably do something almost exactly the same. Is that a super chat?
Yes. Tom said, just for the number one story.
It is fun seeing a bunch of number ones in one place. Actually, there was a meet I was at, and I went and counted it, and I think it was, I want to say it was like 13. No, it was more than that because it was 12. It was probably somewhere around like 21 number ones at that meet. Usually there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 at an individual meet, but there's almost always at least one number one there. Does he have a mom joke?
Yes. You want to know the big difference between men and women with the phrase, smell this?
What's that?
If a woman asks you, it usually smells nice.
Truth. What's the next question?
Who's up? David Dorothy. How long is your wife's bench? Mine was 5 foot long, but I always had difficulty with the bench moving. Any tips on reducing that movement with a shorter bench?
My bench is 5 foot. Her bench will be 4 foot. The movement is not anything to do with the length of bench. It has to do with the weight and the friction to the floor. And so that's why a lot of people then have storage underneath the bench because it increases the weight. I used to actually have wood storage underneath my bench, and I would pile up the wood underneath the bench. And that is one of the best ways to do it. The other way you can do it is to increase the friction, put rubber pads on the bottom so that it doesn't want to slide around on the floor. And that helps a lot. But most of the time it just comes down to weight. I actually know some people who have anchors down into the floor, and they'll actually attach it with cinches so that they can winch the bench onto the floor. And that works great. I know people who will put an angle bracket and screw it down into a wood floor so it doesn't move around. But it does help a lot when it's not moving around. Sarah's bench will be naturally a bit lighter because it'll be a Moravian bench. It'll be designed to be knocked down and removed. So I can take it with me when I'm going on trips. So I can do demonstrations in places, but it will naturally be a good bit lighter. And when a bench is lighter, it just means you have to be a little more careful when using it. You're not pushing as much into the bench. You're trying to work with sharper tools and have a little bit smoother motion. So a lot of that just comes with experience and knowing how to push it. What's next?
Let's see. Tom West said, I recently bought a 12-inch long coffin plane for $2, but the mouth is very wide. Should I try to close the gap with an insert? The plane is beautiful, otherwise sole included.
Depends on what you want to do with it. If you're wanting to use it as a smoothing plane and you want to do detailed work on coarse grain, then yes, close the mouth, put in an insert, or rebuild the sole. So if your plane is, whoop, wrong one, turn you back around, falling over. Let's fix this. Fix it, fix it, fix it. There we go. Focus. There we go. So if the mouth is too big, you can either put in a small insert in front. So you mortise out basically like a rectangular butterfly, put it in there, and it closes the mouth down too. Or you could put on a whole nother piece on the sole. A lot of people do that with sliding dovetails, so it'll actually slide in from the side. And then you can recut the mouth so it's down a little lower. And so there's a little bit of both. I kind of like the look of another piece of wood on the bottom. You can do it with something hard, but a little insert is also very, very good. I know some people who even do it with a little piece of brass so it wears down a little slower. But if you have a small piece here of brass or something metal, that doesn't wear down very fast, but the rest of the plane does wear down, and so it becomes a balancing point where you might have a high spot from that brass piece. So I would probably stick with a piece of wood that's around the same density. You are my density. But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to fix that. Have fun. What's next?
We got some peer pressure buying over here.
Peer pressure, why? I didn't see.
Okay, I'm just going to jump to this question because it really took over the chat. See, Brigette Lopez said, I have been... should I or should I not purchasing a Stanley 55, which looks rusted, for $60? I watched your Stanley 55 and 45 videos today. I'm still very torn. How do you know it's a good deal? And in the chat, I think she said that there was fences and skates, and it isn't bent.
If it has both skates and two fences and the rods that go between it and one cutter, $65 is an awesome deal, pretty much no matter what the condition. That's a good deal. Usually, the body with one cutter is around $120, $100. That's the going price for that. If you get it with all the cutters and the body but no box, you're usually looking at around 200 plus. With the box and everything in it, you're probably looking somewhere around $300 to $400, maybe up to $500. Some of those in some conditions might go up to $600. So those are very pricey planes. So $65 is a very good deal.
All right, here to help. Let's see. Tom West super chatted. Thank you, King James, for helping me learn how to rebuild my soul. Slam's helmet visor down. Long live White Oak.
Thank you, Tom, sir. Sir Tom. Tom, sir. Sir Tom, huh, Tom.
You ready for a mom joke?
I'm ready. What's the mom joke?
Ready? You matter. Until you multiply yourself times the speed of light squared. Then, you energy.
I like that one. That is very, very good. All right, on that note, I got the next mom joke since this
You got the next?
I got a dad joke.
Okay, so Tiny Woodshop has a question first. Would you ever get an infill plane or ever wanted to?
Oof, I do not. Well, no, I'm going to take that back. I have one infill plane, and it is a hunk of junk. It was made from a kit from a guy who had actually fix it up and actually get it working. But that's my only infill plane. Cool piece, just needs some work, and the kit build was not done very well. But it could be a very functional plane. Infill planes are kind of a cult thing. They feel really good because they've got a lot of weight to them. They have a very good tone to them, and they feel good when they're going through the wood because there's less vibration. They're very solid. There's very little movement to the plane, but they're incredibly expensive. Is that money worth the good feel? It depends on you. If you have the money for it, then yes, it is worth the feel. If you don't have the money for it, then no, it is not worth the feel. So you start getting into some of those planes like Sauer and Steiner, where you're spending, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 plus for a plane. You're not buying a plane that does better work than another plane. You're buying a plane that makes you feel really good, and you are buying that feeling. No, I'm not buying a Sauer and Steiner. Though if I had the money, don't tell my wife. So yeah, no, I don't have many infill planes. I don't have any other than this because it's not worth it for me. But if you've got the money and you want to, go for it. Have the fun. So, yes. Thank you, Tiny Woodshop.
Okay, you want a joke?
Yes, dad joke. So a Higgs boson drifts into a Catholic church, and the priest comes running up to him and says, "Hey, you're not allowed in here." And the Higgs boson looks at the priest and says, "But with me, how do you have mass?"
Do you know how many times you've told that joke?
It's one of my favorites. I love that joke. What's next?
Hang on. So, Michael Fischer, love your videos. I am looking for a skew block plane with a fence. Any suggestions?
A skewed block plane with a fence. I don't know why you would want that. Usually if you have a fence, then you want a rabbit plane. Yeah, I don't know why you would want that. Usually at that point I'd say go get a rabbit plane rather than a block plane with a fence. I do know that they make block planes with a fence, but they're really rare because they're not a really common need. So yeah, I don't have too much help for you because I don't know where I would want to look for that particular use. Sorry. I would say look at a rabbit plane. But I'm sure there's some particular use that would be perfect for, but I don't know what it is. Sorry. What's next?
Let's see. Nate Long asks, what did you get from the Can I Have It? It says Randy, but I think it's...
Can I Have It auction group.
Yeah.
Let's see, where is that fence? Oh yeah, here. This is really cool. This is one of my most recent purchases on there. Here, I got this. This came in the mail today. So I got an old marking gauge. So this is a mortising gauge with 2 wheel cutters. And I've been wanting one like this for a while. So yes, I'm going to have fun with that. But then this is something I've been wanting for a long time. This is a fence that can go on a jointer plane so that you can make sure you're jointing perfectly 90 degrees, or if you want to join a particular angle, you can put that on there. And this then locks onto the side of your jointer plane. And the crazy thing about this is a Stanley 386, and these look like they should be relatively cheap, but they are not. These are incredibly expensive, which is why I haven't been able to buy one in a long time. I haven't ever been able to buy one until recently. They're rare, they're hard to find, and so when you do find them, it's kind of like, ooh, yes, cool, but then they're priced way out. So I was very happy to find this weekend. It's been on my list for a while. I don't know if I got something this weekend, but I don't remember what it was. I sold my my post drill, which I need to get that packaged up. That actually went to Bearcat Woodworking, who's a good friend of mine. He's out west. We've done a few videos in the past where we made shoulder planes. We each made one and did that. We're actually probably going to be doing a video here soon where we're making saws together. So I'm looking forward to sending that out and seeing it in his shop.
So Kenny-Anjanette Horn, the next question was, how much did you sell the jewel for?
I think the final bid was $125 plus shipping. And shipping that is not a cheap process. I have to make a crate for it. I was going to make it today, but ran out of time. And I don't know if I'll have time to make it tomorrow because it's been a busy week. But yes, it'll be coming out here soon. But definitely worth. I'll be shipping. Give you a little preview of what will be happening this next week. Is I'm going to be selling this. This is a set of auger bits. And these are Russell Jennings auger bits. And I have the quarter. I'm missing 2 total from this. And so it's almost complete set of really nice looking Russell Jennings auger bits. And so this will be going up this weekend. So you can start arguing over that. So good luck to the people. If you want to have a shot at winning that, head over to the group. Oh, Tom, you're back on. Thank you, man.
He says, name the dog Bark, the white oak bench dog.
Yes. Oh, yeah. If you haven't noticed, we now have a bench dog. Sarah used it for the bench dog video, and it just happens to show up in a lot of my pictures now. And so I think she'll stay down here.
It's our mascot. Apparently, it's named Bark now. That's what happens when you super chat it.
Sir Bark. Oh, no, I guess she's a she, so it would be
Lady
Bark.
Lady Bark. Lady of the Bark. All right.
Lady Oak. Ooh, I like that one.
Lady Oak. Are you ready?
Yes.
My mom asked me to stop singing I'm a Believer by the Monkees because she found it annoying. At first, I thought she was kidding, but then I saw her face.
Yes. Okay. What's next?
Okay. And there's another, and then Brigette Lopez super chatted as well for
thanks,
answering
Brigette.
her question. I hope is it Brigette or Brigette? I hope I'm saying it right.
Well, thank you. Either way,
Barkita.
we're very good at slaughtering names here, so thank you for the super chat. What was her mom joke?
If someone from Holland married a Filipino, would their kids be jalapenos?
You have to ask these things. What's next?
Inquiring minds want to know. Dan Sackett, what did he ask? What saw set would you recommend for smaller tooth saws? I got a Stanley 42, but the anvil seems a bit too big to set finer teeth.
Yeah. Every saw set came in 2 different sizes. Well, usually came in 2 different sizes. There's a small size and a large size, and the small size goes from their smallest teeth up to around 8 ppi. And then the large set goes from around 10, 12 ppi up to the top size. And so you have 2 different sizes that kind of overlap in the middle. And so most of them will work for one or the other. And then you'll find a lot that were larger and people filed them down to work on a smaller one. And then you can get the smaller ones and you can still set big teeth with a small file. It's just a little bit more fiddly because the hammer is closer up to the tip. And so you can't say this saw set is better than that one for small teeth or large teeth because a lot of times they would sell the same type saw set with different hammers on them. And so, yeah. And there are hundreds and hundreds of different types of saw sets, and you really can't say any one is better than another because a lot of people really like this one, and a lot of people really like that one, and a lot of people really like that one because they're designed to fit different hands in different ways and different ways of doing things in different heights. And it's very, very hard to recommend a particular saw set tool because there are so many different ones that come in so many different shapes. And each one then has its own modifications and variances. So if that one is too big, then take it apart and file the hammer down a little bit, and it'll fit the smaller ones. And you can still use a small one on big teeth, though it's better to have a bigger one for that. It's kind of one of those things that eventually you'll end up with a bunch of them. And if you go to an MWTCA meet, there's usually one guy at the table who has a whole box of saw sets, and it'll have a price on it of like, you usually have a price of $5 a piece, or what was the normal one, or 3 for $10. So they're usually somewhere around $3 to $5 for saw sets. But if you buy them out in the wild, you're usually going to spend like $10 a piece on them. What's next?
Okay, I have 4 questions, and these are probably the last 4 we're gonna get to, being it's
Unless
5
someone
minutes
super chats.
still. So, John Lochary asked, out of all your tools, what was the best buy?
That's hard because I've had some really, really good ones. I don't know. Probably my Stanley number 3. That was one of the few purchases where the person really had no idea what they had and had it marked way too low, and there wasn't any chance to inform them or any reason to, because I was selling to a store. I mean, I have several tools where I've traded time for them, or a fan of the channel has sent me something specific, but it's not really something, I've traded time for it, so I don't know if I get that. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything that's like really, really good.
Your chisels?
My Nerix chisels?
I don't know. What was your best buy? You like your 2 cherries, don't you, too?
Yeah, but I paid wholesale at a store for those.
Oh, you're trying to find the best deal?
Yeah.
Oh, that was not how I interpreted it, but I gotcha.
Yeah. My 5 1/4. My Stanley 5 1/4. I bought it for $1 at a garage sale, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, no one likes it because there's a crack in the handle and someone drilled a hole in the toad." And I'm like, "I glue up the handle, and the hole really doesn't matter. It's a great user." So I bought it for $1. So that was a pretty good one. 5 1/4. What's next?
Let's see. Dad Gamet asked, what is your floor surface? Do you think the end grain wood is worth it? I have a tendency to drop things.
My floor is hard concrete. And if I drop something, then it's my fault. Yeah, I've done a few things, and I've had to resharpen chisels because they've chipped. But oh well. I've really had no reason to do anything else on it. I actually kind of like the concrete. It's a little loud with the klomping, but I stand on it all day long without any problem, and I like the concrete. If I had my druthers and I built my dream shop, then I probably would do in-grain 2x4s. But that would be a lot of work and a lot of expense. But it would be very cool. Had those for one of my theater stages, and it was so much fun to work with. But we'd see. So what we got?
Lockman45 asks, what angle do you use to plane wood grain that goes both ways? What should the blade be sharpened to?
If you're talking about a regular bench plane, the angle you sharpen the iron does not matter in the least because the bevel is down. So the cutting angle is actually the angle of the frog. And usually you want the angle as high as you can get. So usually on most planes that's 45 degrees. And that is a relatively good. I do have my Veritas custom plane. I have a 55 degree frog that I can put in there. And so that's really nice. So I can get some really good curl in it. If you have a low angle plane, then you're probably going to want to use a 50 degree iron. Now on a low angle plane, because the bevel is up, then that determines your angle of attack. And so you do want a higher bevel angle on your iron because it really matters in that. In a plane, in a regular Bailey pattern or bevel down plane, the bevel angle of the iron does not affect its cutting. But for tough grain, the higher the better. generally. And that's why scrapers are one of the best things, and scrapers actually have a negative cut. They're compressing it. So it, well, actually they're not negative because the curl on the front is digging in, but it's basically a massive chip breaker on there. So, yeah. What's next?
So they were talking about how you talking about your dream shop, well, standing in a shop they'd all love to have, and at one point Tom said, I would just hug that entire wall if I was there, which gave me a very funny image. And then Alan super chatted because he's a brat and said, so the devil came by and said, your wife or tool collection? Answer, by the way, I do marriage counseling.
That's an easy one. My wife, because she would always let me buy another tool collection. She's a great wife. What can I ask for?
Trying to stay out of that doghouse, aren't you?
It just gives me another excuse to buy tools. If the tool collection disappears, then I'll go buy another one. That's okay. What's next? Or you got a mom joke for him?
I tried to come up with a carpentry pun, but that would work. I think I nailed it, but nobody saw it.
Yeah, you got that one in there. We have one more question, or is that it?
Oh, yes, one more.
One more question, last question. What do we
Will
got?
Cress asks, do you know much about C.E. Jennings? I have a draw knife of theirs that I inherited with my grandfather's things.
Unfortunately, I do not. One of the groups I would say is go to on Facebook, the Unplugged Woodworkers group. Usually there is a collector on there who will be like, he collects that company and he'll know all about the history on it. And that's one of the things I love about going to the tool collecting organizations is there are people who are specifically collecting that particular maker. And when you start getting into old saws and hand files and wooden planes, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of makers out there, and I just can't, I can't follow them all. So no, I don't know anything particular about that one. I know there are a lot of people who will suddenly be like, oh, you should because they did such and such, and sorry, I don't. But yeah, go to one of the groups, ask on there, and you'll probably find someone who's a particular collector or knows about it. So, on that note, I think we will do this. So thank everyone for coming. I hope you had fun. This was a fun one for me. We will be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. I'm not sure what the topic will be. I think that one is our monthly Q&A, but I'm not 100% sure. So we'll see how that goes. If I didn't get to your question or you have anything particular, shoot me up on social media or my email, and I'll try and get to as many of those as I can. So I'm forgetting anything else? No? Until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye.